Okay, I told you I'd bring you back if I found something interesting. The Emerson 131, the B131, is the only wiring diagram I could find, and it's very close to this. It's very close to this. So I've got all of the capacitors changed except for one. It was hidden and I didn't see it. And it's back here behind the oscillator, and it's very extremely difficult to get to. I'll try and focus in on it. You can kind of see it hiding back there. I really don't want to remove this to get to it, because there is a ground wire. Let's go a little wider here. There's a ground wire. So we can get that out of the way. There's a ground wire right here, soldered to the chassis, and it's pretty tight, and it goes to the, I think, to one of these. I can't see exactly where it goes from back in here, but it goes either to the oscillator coil itself or to the one of these. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. I really don't want to mess with this. I could unbolt it and maybe try and fold it back out of the way to get in here to this. Let's see if I can make it move for you. If you can see it hiding back there. See it hiding back there behind it? Wiggling it? So we've got R2, which I believe is this resistor, this big black one, this wire wound resistor is R2. R2 cathode to ground, and then that condenser to ground. So I really don't want to remove this and try and get in there and work on this. So my thought was to clip it off down here as close as I can to this grounding lug, desolder it from the lug of the tube socket, and it's small enough because it's looking at the sheet. I haven't scratched it off and looked at the condenser itself, capacitor itself, but according to the parts list in the riders for the Emerson B131, it's a 0.15, and this is a 0.15, and it's small enough it can sit in here. So I can just wire it to the tube socket and to the ground lug here. And if it causes problems, then I guess I'll have to change it and try and go to this ground. But I don't see a difference between this chassis ground and this chassis ground, as long as this is making good connection. As long as this guy right here is making good connection. So we'll go up a little bit higher so you can see this. I'll raise up the lamp a little bit. Stay. And you can see that. We'll try to get in here a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. There. So, I think this is R2 going to chassis ground. And then that condenser connects to pin 5 and runs down below that oscillator and connects to another chassis ground. And I think why they didn't put it here, because those old waxies were so big. You know, I mean, it would just fill this whole area right here and be sitting really close to this antenna coil transformer. So I'm thinking this guy's small enough. I'm thinking this guy's small enough he can sit right in there and not be a problem. I think it'll be fine sitting in there like that. And if my soldering iron doesn't get hot enough to melt this, I can always J-hook it around this and solder it here, which that might be the better option. I'll try and melt this first before I go and get crazy. I don't know what kind of tension's on this. I don't want to have that spring. There's no hole there, so it's just laid in a puddle right on the surface of this. So if I can just melt into it a little bit and get a good connection, but I think I'd rather J-hook it around this and then to that. And then I'll put heat shrink on either leg of it, and it should lay in there really close like that. I don't know how hot that's going to get, so I'll leave it off of there, a couple of millimeters, so there's some air circulation next to it and it doesn't overheat. Otherwise, man, the leads on this are are not long enough to reach. Let's come back. I'll have to come down a little bit. So the leads on this are not really long enough to reach, to lay back in there and make that turn around to get to ground there. So I think this is probably the better option. I think if they had the smaller condensers, they probably would have done this. They probably would have done it up here. So that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully it works. I don't see how it could be making a bunch of noise off that cathode next to that resistor. I mean, the oscillator coil's here though, so, or the antenna coil, I don't see that really causing a problem, but if it does, I will move it. I'll do what I got to do. If I have to, you know, put a wire, solder a piece of wire there and run it up, I guess. I really don't want to remove this. I don't want to disturb this. It appears to be working, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm glad I found that waxy back there hidden. I mean, you really got to look real hard. And before, this was all filled with condensers, right? Those old waxies were blocking all of this. It was really packed in here with those, see these big guys here, these bigger condensers, right? They're huge. And then these were in there as well. These were in there as well. Two of them. There were two of them laid in there. And I relocated and put a terminal strip for one of them right here. And I put this terminal strip in here. So, and the other one's laying in here. Laying in here because it's tied to ground. It can't go anywhere. It's pretty solid. It's not going to move around, just like these guys are all nice and solid in here tied to that ground. They're not going anywhere. So I'll be back once I get that I guess removed and connected, and then I think we can try and power this up and see if it's working after I got all the tubes out of it. These guys are pretty dirty. These tubes are pretty dirty. I'm going to clean them up and then I'll run them through the tube tester. If I find a bad one, we'll come back and look at what my Ekio 625 says about them. I mean, it's not the perfect tester, but it's probably good enough to tell me whether or not I got a bad tube, shorted, or emissions are low or whatever. So we'll be back in a little bit here once I get that changed. Well, I've got all of the components that needed to be changed. I checked the resistors and I could not find one that was out of spec. It took me a while. These resistors in this are the body in dot, but instead of the dot they have a ring. So brown, black, green is your multiplier. So 1 0 green, I believe, is 5 zeros. So they're all that way, right? Body, end, dot. They're all that way in here except for these wire round guys. And like that black one up there that I showed you before, that wire wound, I don't know. I had to look in the manual for that, or in the wiring diagram, to figure out the resistance of that one. So that one capacitor laid in there very nice. You can see it there. I lied to you. When I pulled it out, it was a... Let's see if I can find it here out of the pile of dead guys. Yeah, here it is. I don't know how well you can read that, but it's a 0.1. It's a 0.1. It's not not 0.15, it was a 0.1. So I put a 0.1 in here. And it lays in there pretty nice. This is the 6D6 tube. And in the scroll chart, it doesn't list it in this scroll chart, but in the PDF manual that I have for this 625, it lists it. And the settings are as they are here. 1 and 5 are down, 2, 3, 4 are up, and 10. SCL's on 3. The selector's on 3, and filament voltage 6.3. Shunt is on 30. Line adjust. Line adjust looks pretty good to me. And that's supposed to be on 3. And then we run them through the shorts, and we look for the short light to come on. And none of them come on. I flipped it through, none of them come on. You don't move one. You move one, the short light will come on. And I believe these two are the filament pins, 1 and 5. I thought it would be 6, 1 and 6. But I'm going what the scroll chart says. But the filament is glowing in there, and the tube is warm. I hit the merit. Push the merit button. Nothing. Tube's dead. Got a dead tube. So I'll get the other tester out, the other 625 I have, and double check it to make sure that it is the tube, but I'm assuming it's the tube. I guess I'll have to get a 6D6 coming. Hopefully I can get one. So I dug through all of my all my tubes, and I couldn't find a 6D6. Then I remembered I had this junker radio. This is a junker, but it had a 6D6 in it, luckily. And we pushed the test button. She's good. So we got a good tube. It's a good 6D6. We can move on. We'll see you in a bit. Let's turn that back down. Let's turn that on. Okay, that's on. You can't see the dim bulb tester. The lights are on. Let's get her up to about 80. Let's see how bright those bulbs are. Yeah, those bulbs aren't very bright at all. 0.26. Let's get her up to 100. Dead quiet. There we go. 0.3. 0.34. Okay, I'm going to lower the voltage back down a bit, and we'll take it off the bulb tester. So now we're on full voltage here. Direct. Just through the isolation transformer now. Let's back that off a bit. 117 is where we want it. Okay. So that new 6D6 seems to be working. And I wonder how long it's been since this radio's played. It'd probably sound better if I took this off, but I'm still not done dinking around with it, so I want to leave this on for now. Because I will poke a hole in that thing. It's awful loud. A lot of noise here. There's always been a lot of noise in my work area here.
Sponsored by Dr. Pat Vasily and Transformation Talk Radio. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned. When he left, but you know what? Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur are 22-6.
A lot of sports.
I thought last year he was very good on the play sheet, but didn't adjust at half. This year, Green Bay's a better, not great, but a better. We'll get to your e-persons shortly because this is e-person Monday. Find a way to.
So, Como 1000 news. We should be coming upon it here pretty quick.
Denise said if COVID rates come down significantly, she would like to bring back pre-K up through second graders for
Well, what was that?
5 days a week. CMS Times reports under the proposal, parents could choose to keep their kids at home and continue with remote learning. And most critically, a broad return to the classrooms would need buy-in from teachers. And so far, the union.
Now, when I tested that 75 tube, it was weak. So,
Come on in.
I'm not sure what's going on. What was that? It was nice and loud. Now it's
State of Washington
still loud.
after realizing there are a total of over 450,000 who fit into those categories, yet we're only supposed to receive.
So that's really close to 1,000. So I got that needle back on there, right?
If your goal is to prevent deaths, seniors should be vaccinated.
All right. So I'm going to leave that on, actually. I'm going to get set up to check the alignment on it. The internal frequency on this radio, does it give me that here? I don't think it's 455. I think it's 456 or I'm going to have to look. I didn't print that sheet and I'm not seeing it on the wiring diagram here. I'm not seeing it on this one. Automatic volume control 75. So I imagine it gives you a list right here of what the tubes do. And 75 is the diode detector, the AF, you know, the amplifier, and the automatic volume control. And the way that popped, I'm wondering if 75, if there's that tube tested weak on 2 of its sections. There were 3 tests on that tester, if you remember, so I don't know if I filmed that. But 2 of them were weak, 1 of them was okay. Now what is that? Huh. Silver mica? Usually that's more of a popping sound, and once it warms up, it just continually does it.
Officials first noticed cracks in the West Seattle Bridge 7 years ago, but kept the public in the dark. That's what a newspaper investigation alleges. Almost Corwin Hake has more.
7 years ago, they knew that bridge was cracked, and they just... It ain't gonna fall and hurt anybody. Okay, 456, I found it. I thought it was on here. IF peaked at 456 kilocycles. So 456, not 455. So, must have been a copyright thing. They didn't want to pay RCA, but they already had the license, so I'm not exactly sure why 456 and not 455 like every other frickin' radio, but whatever. We'll just let it run here. See, and that was with the volume all the way down too. So whatever that was on the other side of the volume control. So it could have came out of the 75, definitely. That noise could have. We'll see if it does it again. I ordered a 75 tube and a new 6D6. They're on the way. So, And this has the 456 wave trap. Alright. I'll double check the alignment. If there's anything to see with the alignment, I'll bring you back. Otherwise, just assume it went, just minor adjustments is what I think is needed. There. I think that's a 75 tube right there. I think the whole problem is that 75 tube. I'll double check the sockets. I cleaned them once. I'll double check to make sure I don't have something going on in one of those tube sockets before I do the alignment. It does seem like it's coming out of the 75. It's not coming out of the output tube. Yeah. I'll have to double check that. Make sure I don't have a bad solder joint on the bottom of that. We'll be back. Well, I did double check the alignment.
And they transfer whatever you send them.
And it wasn't off very much at all. Just minor adjustments.
iCloud download link however you want.
It does sound pretty good though.
Shipping of the
I'm sure it would sound a lot better if I took this off.
And you can track it. It's sent back to you. Legacy Box takes a couple of weeks' time to do the transferring in whatever form you request. It's that simple. They have the latest. They do high-speed dubbing. They make sure the original quality, or whatever you send them, is preserved. And the payoff is just to relive those hours of memories, being able to share them with people.
That's that 3-position switch on the back.
It's a great gift for people that
I think I need to clean it. I haven't cleaned any of the switches, so.
Times and have no way to remember them. Online at legacybox.com/rush. Do it today, and you'll save 60% off the normal pricing. That's LegacyBox.
Well, I had the
60% off the digital.
The vacuum tube voltmeter on and the leads connected to it. I checked this connector for the headphones, and it is definitely it's working. This is working like it should right now. I haven't plugged the earpiece in, and I'm gonna wait until I get that new 75 tube.
I can ask you why are so many.
And I'm gonna take that one piece of that earphone apart and look in there and make sure there isn't any anything that needs to be corrected in there. I'm not sure what's in that box, so
if you're a high school student,
we'll see. I'll take it apart and look in there and see if there's any waxy capacitors in there. I don't know what's in there. I'll take it apart and we'll take a look in there. So this is working pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just going to let this run for a while and see if anything. I haven't heard any silver mica popping.
Your ancestors did it.
So I'm just going to let it run here for a little bit and see what happens. That ballast tube that's all rusty in the back, I'm going to sand that down and paint it with some glossy black engine paint. It's kind of heat resistant paint. I don't know how hot that thing's getting. I'm gonna say it's probably around 250. I'll get my my infrared temperature on it and find out. Make sure it's not over the temperature of that paint, that engine paint. I'm sure it'll be okay. I guess I'll see you in a bit. Well, the radio's been running for 6 hours. 5 hours. It's been running for about 5 hours. I've got my infrared temperature thingy here. So like 250.
Will create a split screen to listen to what Trump's saying and then listen to what Biden's saying and compare the two of them and I think in terms of crowd size and
so let's just say 260.
I don't know if it'll be a
So let's round up 260. The paint I have says it's good to 500. It's good to 500. It's gloss black. I was hoping for flat black, but it's black, and I had it. I had this paint already. I was trying to raise the serial number on a 1952 Ford 8N tractor. There's a serial number break for the seals in the, pardon me, for the axle, for the rear axle seals. There's a difference in parts, and you need to know the serial number to get the right parts for the serial number of the tractor. And anyway, I had this paint for trying to do that. I painted it white and I sanded it off with fine sandpaper, and then I painted it black. And then I tried painting. I couldn't raise the number. No matter what I did, I couldn't raise the number. I kept trying and trying. I couldn't raise the number. So, I still don't know what serial number that tractor is. But anyway, I'm going to pull this ballast tube out of here, and I'm going to sand it down, and I'm going to paint it. And then after that, I'll have to think about what I got to do next. I know we got to work on the dial face, and I still want to try the earpiece yet, but I need to take that apart and check the inside of it out. So I guess we'll see in a bit. Okay, I wanted to go over something unique with this radio. Not that it's like really unique with the radio, but it's unique with, well, anyway, I look at the tube complement list that comes in the rider's information, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tubes. Well, we see 6 tubes, don't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I thought it was strange that there's a metal tube here. So I looked around and looked around in the schematic, and I'm counting 1, 2, right? Rectifier tube, output, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tubes. I'm like, what the heck is going on? R16. R16. I'm like, what's going on here? Drop across ballast resistor R16. So I started looking in the, I didn't print the page, but in the parts page and the alignment page, it calls out ballast tube. And I thought it was kind of funny because all of the other radios I've ever worked on that had a ballast tube, they drew in the schematic the ballast tube as a tube and give you pin numbers for all of this. But they didn't do that with this radio. They just drew it in as a resistor that had taps on it. So I thought when I first looked at this, and then I looked in the radio, I didn't see it was one of those metal resistors. I forgot what they're called, something ohm. And I thought that's kind of weird it wasn't in there, but it's this ballast tube. And it was very rusty, and the only reason I painted it is because I kind of figure I'm not going to be able to get another tube, another ballast tube. It would be hard to come by. So I did not want it rusting through. I wanted to stop the corrosion and preserve the tube. And the tube is not printed on. There was no printing on the tube. Let me get it out of here. Slowly pull that out. It's embossed. It's actually stamped in it what it is. It's a 3CR 241. I guess I could have put more paint here. It's kind of thin. I may have to put another coat on this. I didn't notice that. We'll have to put a little more paint on this. That's no big deal. So that's, I wanted to show you that. It was kind of confusing to me at first, but there it is. So we'll be back in a few minutes.